Greetings, one and all. Nick DiVirgilio here, hanging out with Claus Hessler.
Yes.
How you doing, my friend? It's great to have you here. We've been shooting videos all day long, getting some great content, and I wanted to ask you a question about independence, especially for a player that's, you know, maybe just starting out, has been playing for a while, but still has struggles with independence. When you play, when I watch you play, your whole body seems very free to do whatever you want. Maybe it's not as easy as I'm making it sound, but it sure looks that way, and I hear it that way. And I see your feet doing separate things and your hands and all that kind of stuff. So could you show us maybe a couple of beginner exercises or something for the newer player to develop independence, to kind of really separate the limbs from the feet and so on?
Independence is, as opposed to technique, where I was saying earlier, technique, that's all, to me, all the small stuff. I mean, the fine tuning of my motions. And independence to me is more stuff, okay, do something here and do something else here. Do something like that, okay? And I think playing an instrument like the drums, you need to have some kind of independence and coordination down, because otherwise this beast here is not going to be working. I also think that independence, I mean, I will not say useless, but it doesn't make too much sense if you're not aware of a basic, really solid pulse of quarter notes.
Okay.
So this is oftentimes where people have start the journey. Let's say just, and I mean, we're not even speaking musical styles now, but imagine you'd have a quarter note pulse from your hi-hat as a super, say, kind of beginner exercise, and you would have and you don't even need to start out doing that with a metronome, but you could imagine, try to make this as solid as possible, and then pretend you don't know anything. Let's say, on a very musical, childlike approach, you would have this. And I mean, if I were to see that on paper, it might look pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But the goal for an exercise like this would be to mostly apply your sense for music, to try to make it music, not an exercise, and try to see where your limits begin to kick in. Which kind of combinations, which sort of rhythms are beginning to create a struggle in terms of
Like losing the quarter note, basically.
losing the accuracy and the solid feeling of the quarter note. That would be something I would possibly start out with. Another thing about independence is that oftentimes that whole aspect of dynamics gets overlooked or underrated, and dynamics are pretty important here, because dynamics only come into the game when you organize your motions accordingly. To give you a simple example, let's say you have an ostinato like this. The bad news is this is not eighth notes, but the pulse is going to be . So this is now an accent on the second beat of the 16th note grid and a soft note on the fourth position of the 16th note grid. Again, with trying some sort of musical imagination that goes into an exercise. We are approaching Christmas, right? Aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Let's imagine a straight version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Okay, imagine. You can even improvise on that, but you're thinking music in your head. You're not reading music, or you're not reading exercise. You try to make it musical by having music in your head in the shape of that stupid Christmas song.
Okay.
Okay. So you have your pulse. You have. Something like that.
Okay.
The important aspect here is with a pattern like this, I'm trying to keep the people from calculating, okay, where does the melody meet the accent? Where does the melody meet the soft note? And how do these rhythms come together? I'm trying to look at it more from a standpoint of, okay, understanding this motion will automatically produce the soft and loud. And this motion you have been playing forever. Do this, so the movement in itself is not like rocket science because you have executed that 1,000 times around.
Okay.
But not figuring out where the different lines meet each other can be pretty interesting. And thinking music in your head as opposed to just reading an exercise makes a big difference.
That's great information there. So now let's take it up a notch. I see that you have great independence with your feet as well. You have multiple pedals down there, a regular double pedal, your hi-hat, and then you also have a pedal on your cowbell.
Yep.
Give us some ideas about how to utilize separating your feet, going back and forth, making sure your foot hits the right pedal and going back and forth. And how can you kind of start getting into those worlds once you get to a certain level?
True. I mean, when you begin to enter the field of independence from your feet, it's always a good point, I think, to start with those stylistic exercises, like understanding how does this work? Playing a samba bass drum, or understanding something like that. And then again, it's pretty much the same game. You pick one of these 3 exercises, or 3 basic patterns: samba, some kind of for any sort of stuff which is happening in the Brazilian corner of the world, or a tumbao kind of like style for a lot of Afro-Cuban thingies. And we would have to expand further on what tumbao really is, since boiling it down to just that one pattern may not be sufficient, but anyhow, it's good for now. Or a Bayonne-like Bayao sort of pattern, which you also find in certain parts of the Middle East, and it doesn't connect to Bayonne at all, but that gung 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 is like super present in a wealth of different styles of music. So picking any of these and then trying your same thing, be it Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, so that's going to make it music.
Okay.
I mean, I'm mentioning this now in a sentence or two, but that in itself is a lot of work.
Yeah, it takes a while to to sort of forget that what's happening on the bottom. I mean, I know the pulse still needs to be there, your time, and you're thinking music, but somehow at some point it separates itself. The bottom from the top would separate. You don't have to think about it so much. You can be free doing what you want with your hands in the top half, right?
That is true, and that important step that I think is often missed here is, I mean, not just do it based on an exercise. I mean, not just. I mean, that's all fine, and that's great to practice too, but oftentimes you just really move away from where the music is. And I mean, it may be looked at as some sort of fundamental skill, but it may also just as well have you sound very rigid and very, I'm not saying not musical, but it goes away from where the music should be.
Okay.
I guess. And just in the same way as I presented this offbeat hi-hat thingy, you may want to create exercises with your feet, and that's what I did for quite some time, that have no stylistic background at all. But they still force you to not calculate the patterns against each other. Imagine something like this. But with the bad news would be, this is not triplets, but it would be a group of 3 notes in 16th rhythm. And the thing could be to create a workout for yourself in which you look at one measure of just the ostinato and one measure just quarter notes. One measure of the ostinato, one measure quarter notes, one measure ostinato, one measure quarter notes, and only then you'll be through the cycle of aligning the one from your ostinato with the one from the quarter notes.
Gotcha.
So it would be. And so forth. And then you can pick your Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer, whatever, and try to play this on top of that.
Okay.
But that would be another pattern which is not, say, stylistically set or assigned to a certain corner of the musical world, if that makes sense. But at the same time, you can acquire that freedom where you kind of unlock or I'm lacking the words here. You just take things apart in a way that stuff is not depending on each other.
Gotcha.
Still, but it goes different directions.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. Thank you so much for all of that. You have to play drums for a long time to really make all of this stuff work, but I think it's a good starting point. And folks, you can go check out all of Claus's educational content, klaushessler.com. You've done a lot of book writing, DVDs, lots of content on this subject. So you can definitely find more from Claus than just right here. But just thank you so much for taking us through this a little bit. And I would love for you to take us out on a real, just go for it. Let's take independence to like an extreme. We'll see you again soon next time. I'm going to step out of the shot and let you go for it. All right?
Excellent.
Go for it, brother.
Yeah.